from Gothamist. Ahead of NYC summit, Al Gore says addressing climate change is one way to solve migrant crisis. Okay, so they're going to solve one crisis they created by working on another boogeyman crisis they created. And I don't know if this photo is from the event they're talking about, but what is that weird green circle on his coat? Either way, they say New York City's migrant crisis could be solved, at least in part, by solving the global climate crisis, according to former Vice President Al Gore. Well, this is also crazy. It's because it's global sometimes when they want it to be, but other times it's disproportionately affecting communities of colors, so says the old man dressed up in a women's Navy outfit.
Climate change is having a disproportionate effect on the physical and mental health of black communities.
But I digress. In an interview with Gothamist ahead of his Climate Reality Leadership Conference at the Javits Center in Manhattan, well, climate reality? Sure, that exists, but Al Gore certainly is not the person who's going to tell you the truth about the climate. The politician turned climate activist said climate change is already a leading cause of migration into the United States. So already they've contradicted themselves. Is it a global issue, or is it affecting certain parts of the world that are going to benefit the weirdo, elitist, control, power-hungry Democratic regime? Quote, studies have shown that the climate crisis is responsible for most of the migration. Gore, no, well, can you link us to that? Okay, there is some hyperlinks in here, so maybe they will, but studies have shown, oh yeah, study shows, doctors say, scientists says, it all means nothing. What we're seeing with migration from Central America and other regions too, to the southern border of the United States is driven more by climate extremes these people are suffering in the places they've always called home. What? No, they're coming to the southern border of the United States because Bo Biden quite literally said, we need to surge to the border.
We immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
It has nothing to do with the climate. And then the migrants get to New York or they get to Chicago and they say, oh, wow, it's really cold here and this food is nasty. I want to go back home. A 2023 United Nations report found 114 million people worldwide have been forced to leave their homes due to climate change and conflicts. That number is expected to exceed 1 billion by 2050. It's all completely made up. These are the same people that told you the world was going to end in 12 years and sea level rise, even though they're buying beachfront property. So, no, it's all fake. And, of course, the United Nations can't be trusted to run any of these surveys because they are the head of the spear, right? They are the snake. If the entire regime is this disgusting, slithery snake trying to control everybody with lies and deceit, the UN is at the top. I mean, I guess it's a 3 or 4-headed snake, but I digress. That's a different story. More than 175,000 migrants have arrived in New York over the last 2 years, according to city officials. The city has spent an estimated $4 billion on caring for the new arrivals. So New York has spent $4 billion in taxpayer funds, or they've just printed out money, green ones and zeros, who knows, to care for the new arrivals. So why do you have to care for them? You didn't care one bit about any of the homeless drunks laying out on the street, but now you care for the illegal immigrants that the illegal aliens that were once called illegal immigrants, then they were called migrants, then they were called asylum seekers, and they have since even thrown asylum seeker by the wayside and started calling them new arrivals. Absolutely despicable. Quote, it costs much more to continue this reckless and dangerous practice of continuing to burn fossil fuels. There are more than 8 million people that die every year from breathing in the pollution that is caused along with the global warming pollution when fossil fuels are burned. Wait. So is it global or is it climate change? So Dr. Admiral Rachel Levine tells me that climate change is affecting the black and brown communities the most. They did the same thing with Rona, right? It was super scary. It's going to kill everybody. There's a death ticker on CNN. But we're also going to put the testing facilities in the hood because sometimes it's going to affect black people more when we need to use that. Gore's conference lands in Manhattan from April 12th to April 14th. It marks the 55th time he's held the event. What? 55 times? How many times a year is this thing happening? He's held the event, but the first time it will come to New York City, and it will arrive at a key moment in the city's push to reduce carbon emissions. Yeah, because Eric Adams says that a city, New York City, that's quite literally known for pizza, they're going to have to change that a little bit to go green, right? And that will save the planet. Also, we're going to shut down gas stoves. Also, we're going to tell you that everything is scary and you're going to die, but we're going to leave the border open, and we're going to put National Guard troops in the subway system to check the bags of regular commuters who, for whatever reason, still live in New York, while criminals are running rampant, criminal migrants especially, and the National Guard patrol still doesn't even work. City and state lawmakers have passed some of the country's toughest climate legislation, and there we go. There's a laundry list of dystopian Democrat doublespeak euphemisms, right? So, climate bills, climate legislation, gender-affirming care, reproductive care. It's all absolute. What are they going to do, right? Okay, so a bunch of small business owners that run pizza shops are going to have to pay astronomical amounts to update their new pizza cooking machines, and that's the legislation. Local Law 97. Wait, hold on, go back. City and state lawmakers have passed some of the country's toughest climate and crime. They won't touch crime. That's not a problem. But the air, the sun monster is in recent years. But there's still a long way to go in enforcing them. Yes, who's going to enforce them? Because you guys hate the cops, right? So you're going to have the RoboCop on the subway platform enforcing climate legislation? Okay, Local Law 97, New York's most significant climate rule, requires the city's largest buildings to reduce their emissions by 40% by the end of the decade. And there's also, if you go around New York, you can see buildings that have, at first I was like, this isn't a restaurant, because, you can see the A, B, C on a restaurant, right? But then there's buildings that are clearly not restaurants that have a letter grade on them. Some of them have D's and F's about how inefficient they are for the environment. It's absolutely ridiculous, but they're going to reduce the emissions by 40% by 2030. This is legitimately crazy. This is almost as bad as trying to convince kids to cut their junk off, right? So the air outside your front door is deadly because that's Rona, but when Rona goes away, it's still deadly because the pizza man has a polluting smoker, cooker, whatever. I don't know. I'm not a pizza chef, but no matter what happens, it's going to be life and death. We know that. Drive a truck, life and death. Don't get the shot, life and death. Don't wear a mask, life and death. Don't let your kids cut his junk off, life and death. Oh, it's a bloodbath. Oh, Trump is talking about it's a bloodbath. It's always life and death. These people are absolutely insane. But only 21 government employees are currently tasked with enforcing this rule, which apply to roughly 50,000 of the largest buildings across the 5 boroughs. And Mayor Eric Adams has allowed extensions for non-compliant buildings instead of levying fines. Yeah, so they rule by decree, they rule by press release, but they hate the cops, so nobody's going to enforce the crazy rules that they've lobbed on people. And then the crazy woke city council in New York wants the cops to document every single time they talk to a person, which, of course, is completely impossible. And nobody's going to follow up on that. That was only a couple weeks ago when the City Council of New York passed a bill that Eric Adams vetoed, and then they overrode the veto so that the police will have to document every single interaction with the public. And then Governor Kathy Hochul brings in the National Guard to check the bags of regular commuters while crime elsewhere is still through the roof. It's crazy. there's no way that the people at the top of this, the people who are proposing these laws, are this stupid. Obviously, there are a handful of weirdo, brainwashed Democrat losers who are that stupid, but this coming from the top down is quite clearly pure evil. Gore said the climate reality leadership event's key points include offering free education. Yeah, okay, yeah, well, of course they want free education because those have become indoctrination camps. So yeah, it's all free. And we're going to tell you that everything is racist and the sun monster is coming to kill you. And, I mean, on top of that, of course, it's all part of the communist takeover. Yeah, climate reality, which is totally false, bogus, is about offering free education so we can indoctrinate more kids into this wacky ideology. Okay, offering free education on the climate crisis's causes and solutions, as well as helping climate advocates take action in their own communities. This is crazier than I thought it was going to be. This is an opportunity for anyone in New York City, in the Northeast, in the mid-Atlantic states to learn all of the facts false. They're not going to tell you one fact. An opportunity to build skills for communicating more effectively about implementing solutions to connect with others and networks that can give you strength in numbers. It's important to change light bulbs, but it's way more important to change laws and policies. And that means getting more involved in the political dialogue and the political process. Of course, because these people are ready, willing, and able to wield power, even though Al Gore hasn't been anywhere near the levers of power in many years. But he's certainly ready to foist more overbearing government, overreach onto people in an effort to save you from the sun monster. None of this makes any sense.
This doesn't make any sense.
Local advocates who registered for the weekend workshop said the event brings groups with similar interests to share knowledge and strategies, as well as get inspired. You can expect to meet folks from all over the globe who are active, who are innovative and compelling, said Peggy Shepard, executive director of We Act, an advocacy group that's worked on several of New York's climate regulations. Okay, so one of the henchmen driving businesses out of New York. Whether it's understanding new communication opportunities, understanding particular policies that you weren't clear about before. Yeah, they make them confusing on purpose. You can't use a plastic straw. You can't use a plastic gift card. You can't even handle a plastic bag because that's going to kill the environment. And sure, maybe we could be a little bit more conscious about the things we use, but you've completely lost the plot, right? And we've seen it so many times. The slope has slipped, right? It went from, we just want to get married, to cut your kid's junk off and read this porn book in 5th grade in, I don't know, I guess a decade. Whether it's understanding new communication, hearing about best practices that other groups are using. There's so many ways to really enhance your skills through this conference. The registration deadline for the conference is March 24th. Scholarships are available for lodging and transportation. The next training takes place in Rome, Italy. Oh, yeah, so get on your private jet, and your carbon footprint is going to be huge. You're going to emit so much greenhouse gases to get to Rome, Italy, to talk about the sun monster. Quote, we're on the brink now of a positive political tipping point. Are you really, though? Or are people starting to see through it and you're not on a positive tipping point at all, where these extreme events related to climate are convincing more and more people of the extreme events, right? And they love this. So it could be a drought, that's climate change. It could be a flood, that's climate change. It could be a tornado. It could be a hurricane. It could be an earthquake. It could be a fire. It could be quite literally anything, even mass illegal immigration, and that's all climate change. Where these extreme events related to climate change are convincing more and more people. Gore, every night on the TV and the radio news is like a nature hike through the book of Revelation, so we've got to take action now. So says Al Gore. It's all absolute nonsense. And this is him, I guess, still attempting to stay relevant with his climate change, sun monster shenanigans, fear mongering.